everyone. Welcome to Missouri Star Live. I hope you are having a fabulous Tuesday. Thanks for bearing with us. I know we're just a little late. Our internet was giving us fits here in our small town of Hamilton. So thanks for being patient with us. We really appreciate it. I am Misty Doan. I'm happy to be here with you. And we have Liz behind the camera.
Hello.
She is here to help relay any of your questions that you have along the way to me, and we've got our wonderful film team here as well, making sure everything goes great. I'm super excited about this week's topic, but first let's dive in and see where everybody is tuning in from. So Liz, who do you have on your end?
So let's see, we have Jill coming in from Arizona, and Abley coming from Manitoba, Canada, and Christine from Western Florida. Awesome. And several Yaz from digging out in Colorado where there's all the snow.
Yes, lots more snow. Over on Facebook, we have Carol from Wisconsin, Terry from Illinois, Helga from New Jersey. Thank you guys so much for tuning in with us and spending a little bit of your week with us. We are so grateful that you're here, and I am so excited to share with you a little bit about the quilters of Gee's Bend. We had the opportunity to sit down and interview them and talk about their work for our latest issue of Block Magazine. So if you're a subscriber, you've probably had the joy of already reading that article. And if not, you can still, subscribe and you'll get this digital edition,
That's
right?
right. Yeah. So we have a block party coming up for our next issue is already getting ready to go to print.
Yes.
And if you subscribe now and you're not already a subscriber, you'll get this digital issue in your account instantly.
Exactly. And the digital issue is amazing. So I know a lot of our international watchers often ask about our Block Magazine and want to subscribe. You can subscribe to our digital issue. You cannot?
Not yet.
I thought you could. We're working on it.
We're working on it. We're working on it. Very close. Very close.
I made a promise I can't keep.
No, but you can absolutely order individual issues.
Okay.
And you can also order a digital issue if you want it immediately.
Okay, that's great. And there's so much wonderful content in the digital issue as well. There's occasionally some bonus things that you don't get in print because we can make magic happen online.
That's right.
That you can't always do in print. So make sure you check it out either way. But I'm super excited. So if you're not familiar with the quilters of Gee's Bend, they are what we are calling a mini call modern masters of quilting. They are absolutely incredible. It's a very small community, less than half the size of our small town of Hamilton in Alabama. And it is a community of Black women who have passed on their love of quilting and their tradition of quilting for generations. And they have been recognized for the incredible artistry that they share with the world. And I love this quote that's in the article from Michael Kimmelman. He was a New York Times reporter, I believe, who was one of the first to review their works back in 2002. And he said that the quilts from the Gee's Bend quilt makers are some of the most miraculous works of modern art America has produced. And he compared them to, some of the most incredible American artists. And I think he's spot on
absolutely
with that assessment. And I just absolutely love looking at their work. And it's been really exciting to see. Recently, they've partnered with an organization called Nest to help bring awareness to their quilt making and to elevate them in the industry. So be sure to check them out if you're on Instagram. We have linked to information about these articles in the description, in our supply list, to make it as easy as possible for you to find out more about these incredible quilters. I am just so inspired by the work that they do. And that is what led us to what we're going to talk about today. So make sure you check out Gee's Bend Quilt Makers on Instagram. And then from there in the profile, you can get to lots of different links of articles that they've been featured on, to their Etsy shops where they sell their amazing works of art. And we've also, like I said, linked to those for you. But let me tell you kind of the journey we went on.
Yeah.
As we were learning more about their history, their style of quilting, how they come together as friends and relatives and work together on these beautiful quilts. There are no rules in their quilts. They kind of pass on the patterns from generation to generation. They work together and they create beautiful works of art. And I love the idea of thinking outside of the box and being able to step away from, the traditional, everything has to fit a perfect block. And so as we were learning about them, we have kind of a quilters council here at work at Missouri Star, where we all share our thoughts and ideas. And when we had the opportunity, we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we took, their inspiration and their style of, just free improv quilting and using up our scraps and worked together as a community, a group of women here at Missouri Star to create a quilt. And so this quilt behind me is the quilt that we worked on together. There was a large group of us and we all worked on different blocks, and the only rule that we had was to make sure we included a piece of black fabric somewhere in the block just to help make everything tie together. But otherwise we could use whatever fabric, whatever method our heart desired, and then we squared them up. I think there was 2 block sizes that we could work with. One was a traditional square block and one was more of a rectangular shape. And this quilt makes me so happy.
It's so bright and beautiful.
It's so beautiful, and to know that not only did this come from scraps, so the things that so many of us set aside and we hope we'll get to someday, this beautiful quilt came from that. And then also we got to work on it together. And I just think all of those things are some of the real magic of quilting. And I love that the women of Gee's Bend are sharing that with us and reminding us that it's okay to step away from the rules occasionally and to just let ourselves be creative and flow. So let me talk a little bit about how I approached this free piecing. And that's all I can speak to is the way that I did it. But we recently, after we had so much fun making this quilt together here, Jenny, Natalie, and I, and my 2 other sister-in-laws, we had a little creative retreat a few weeks back, and we brought this scrap bin. And when Jenny grabbed this, I looked at it and I was like, I don't think that's going to be enough fabric for all of us to start quilting. Well, I can tell you, Jenny made an entire quilt. She finished hers out of these scraps. I've made quite a few blocks. Natalie has made quite a few blocks. And as you can see, this scrap bin is just still full and overflowing. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by grabbing a few pieces. These are all just different size strips. Some of them are linen. Some of them are traditional quilting cotton. It's a wide variety. I like these 2. And I'm actually, let me move this to the side now so you can still see. And I'm just going to cut off a chunk. I'm not even going to measure. And I'm going to sit down at the machine and I'm just going to start by sewing these together. One of the things that's so fun about this is that you don't have to worry about your seam allowance. You don't have to worry about if everything is perfectly straight. You're just sitting and you're sewing. And when I did this at home, I actually would pull my ironing board and everything right over to my machine, to create that little nest that Jenny talks about, to sit and sew and not have to get up, so I can just sew as my heart desires. So I'm just going to cut this off, and this is my piece I'm going to start with. And now I'm just going to pull scraps, and I'm just going to sit here and show you how I did this. And so I usually kind of worked in a log cabin style, which means that we're just going to add our pieces around as we go. And I used scissors for this, so I've just got my scissors handy. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and slide my iron over here, just because why not? Show you the way that we did it. And I think it's interesting because for me, I do all of my piecing on machine, and I think a lot of us do. But when you read about the quilt makers in Gee's Bend, they do a lot of their piecing by hand, which reminds me so much of my grandma. My great-grandma actually did all of her piecing and her quilting by hand. And I often, when I'm sitting and sewing, I'm like, how did she do it, And it's inspiring to know that women are still honoring that tradition, that's been handed down from generation to generation. And so maybe one day I'll be brave enough to try and tackle a quilt all the way by hand, start to finish. But for now, this is good enough for me. And so now you can see, I'm going to pretend this black piece is my center, and I've added a piece here and here. So now I'm going to turn it, And I'm going to put a piece on the other side. And I'm not even trimming this off perfectly. You can see, I'm just going to line this up here.
I was just going to say, this is not the time to be precise.
It is not. It's really not. There we go. We're just going to press that back.
I agree, Tanya. She says, I have a scrap bin. The more I use from it, the fuller it seems to get. It defies the laws of physics.
It does, doesn't it? I think that is so true. So I'm just going to trim that off. I'm going to pull some more pieces out here so I just have some different colors to choose from. And we're just going to keep adding and adding and make our way around the center. And I like that as you use different size strips and different colors, each block kind of starts to have its own story and its own personality, which is so much fun. This was honestly like the creative boost that we all needed to just remind ourselves that it's really okay to just sit down and make anything. It doesn't have to follow a pattern. It doesn't have to, you know, be the standard definition of a beautiful quilt, because when you look at each of these blocks individually, they're so different, and you would never think, oh, let's put them all together. But when you put them all together, it's this beautiful work of art. And I think that's what we need to remind ourselves as quilters, that really the joy is just in the creating.
Yeah.
So
and
I love that.
It can be so expressive to put your different fabrics together and things that you would never put together in a traditional pattern. But
exactly.
Look how great they look, all scrappy, and they have such stories to them and such a rich history and stories to them. It's really very, I don't know, it's just really inspiring.
It is inspiring. And the other thing that's really joyful about the process as we were digging through the scrap bin is just remembering, oh, this piece came from this quilt. This is from when I made this for so-and-so. You know, it's just, even the scraps that are in our bin are still connected to that journey. And it's just a really, really beautiful, beautiful process. So I'm just going to keep going.
So while you keep going, there's a couple of different questions and comments in here. Some folks are mentioning having seen G's Bend exhibits in Denver and Michigan and Minnesota. And if you have had the opportunity, they are really stunning to see, especially grouped together. One of the questions that we asked when we were looking at the article is, how can we support the work of the G's Bend quilters? And especially during this pandemic, it's been increasingly difficult for folks to get to G's Bend or to access
or
that
even
art.
to attend museums
to
see their work.
So one of the things that with this collaboration with Nest is that they've set up these Etsy stores. They've set up ways for these artisans to be connected digitally to the rest of us. And so do go follow those links in the supplies list and in our description of this video, and you can see so many beautiful, beautiful things and support the G's Bend quilters.
Because we can show you this method and the idea that they approach many of their quilts, but you know, it's hardly even scratches the surface of what they do and what they've created. And so I cannot encourage you enough. You will be so inspired by their work and their story. There's no one better to tell it than them themselves. So please, by all means, go and read about them, learn about them, and when you have an opportunity, go see an exhibit. I was actually really sad. I was so excited when some of their beautiful quilts were put up on Etsy. There was one that I just loved immediately, and I was so ready to buy it, and somebody else snatched it right before I could buy it. And so I need to go back and look again, because initially they sold out very quickly on their Etsy shops, which is so great to see. But they have been working to restock those, so make sure you check in often. And I've seen some where they have the finished quilted quilts and some that are just quilt tops that you can purchase, which I love that they're giving options, and they have sizes from wall hangings to full quilts. So there's a wide variety of projects that they've listed there. And like I said, sometimes I just pop over there just for a little bit of inspiration in the colors that they put together, and their method of piecing is just truly extraordinary. So it's really fun. I could just kind of go on and on about it forever, and I can't wait personally. I hope I have the opportunity to meet them as things get safe and we continue to open up again, I would love to invite a few of them here or make the journey down to Gee's Bend in Alabama and get to know them and their story. So let me make a few more stitches and then I'll talk about how you finish these up and actually put them together, or how we finish them up and put them together. But
Perfect.
Let's just sew a few more on here.
Okay.
And Liz, if there's any other questions, be sure to shout those out.
Yes. So Carol says, it looks like you tied this quilt instead of quilting, which makes it look like an old quilt.
We did. We opted to tie this because we really wanted to honor the Gee's Bend quilters. We wanted to approach it in a way that they would, and many of their quilts are tied or hand quilted, and so we decided for this particular quilt we would tie it, and I think it really it lets the beautiful piecing shine, and I love that. I think it just goes together. And like I said, every time I look at it, I see a new little section that pops out, and it just makes me so happy to know all of the different hands that I get the pleasure to work with every day, all of their heart that they put into it. It's just been a really, really fun process.
Yeah, and there's a couple comments in here too. Tish says this would be such a fun project to do with a group of friends. Absolutely it is. Like,
exactly. I mean,
the community part of it is such a
I think that's
excellent
integral.
add.
I would encourage all of you to gather, when you can, safely with your quilting friends and just try this. Bring your scrap bins, lay them out on a table, and just sit and sew. It was so much fun on our girls' weekend when we got together. We just had the best time. We just laughed and sewed, and there was no pressure. Jenny made 847 blocks, I think. She's just like the fastest sewer.
Yes.
And I have a small stack. I think I've got like 14 that I finished from that night. But none of that mattered. It was just so much fun. And I love that I can come back to this anytime, that whatever scrap bin I'm pulling from, it's all going to work together. And eventually I'm going to have a beautiful quilt, and I am going to hand quilt it. Even if I have machine pieced it, I've decided that's going to be my first step. But I just really enjoy it. It's been so fun.
And as you're stitching on, Carolyn had asked, are you back stitching when you're first starting? And I didn't see you back stitch there.
I'm not.
Okay.
No back stitching. I'm just sewing away and trimming as I go. As you can see, not paying a whole lot of attention to how things line up. And as you sew, the block gets just a little bit wonkier and wonkier, and that is just the magic of it. And so let me show you, I don't know how we're doing on time, but hopefully we're doing okay.
We're good.
All right, good. So let me show you. I've got a couple here that I have already finished. Let me clean up some of my mess now. But these are some of my blocks that I made when we had our girls' weekend. And I just want to show you how different each one looks. So let's just lay some of these out. And remember, I was going for that log cabin style on every single one, but they're all so unique and different. My center got a little off here as I added wider strips to one side. I just really love the personality and the movement in all of them. Isn't that so fun to see? And I just love that there's really no rhyme or reason to the color, to the fabric picking. I just went to that bin of scraps, and whatever made me smile when I walked up to it that time, that's what I went with. And I think there's so much freedom in that, in making the most of what you have and what brings you joy. And so that's what I've done here. And so let's talk a little bit about how we would put these together. As I said, we used 2 different block sizes for this quilt that you'll find in Block Magazine. We have this rectangular shape and just a traditional square. And Liz, do you remember what sizes we used for that?
Let me check.
Okay, that would be awesome.
Okay, our block sizes finish at 9 inches, so they're 9.5 inches unfinished.
Okay, so yeah,
and then 18 by 9 finished for the taller ones. So they're 18.5 by 9.5 unfinished.
Perfect. So those were the 2 sizes there. And I think I might go ahead and add in some of the rectangular shapes because I really do like the movement of this. And who knows, maybe maybe I had the idea the other day how fun it would be to just like keep going forever and ever with this log cabin and just let that become the quilt.
Yeah.
And I've seen a few of their tops like that as well that are just so outside the box, and you don't have to limit yourself to a block size by any means, but because that's the way my quilting brain works, let me tell you how I would approach this. Because I've got this stack of blocks, none of these have been squared. I just kind of stopped when they felt done. But my thinking on it was I would use just our 10-inch square ruler or any square ruler you have, and just use that to square them up. And remember, at least the goal for me is I don't want these to look perfectly square. I want them to look intentionally wonky. So even as I use this ruler to square them up, I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping some of that off-kilter look to my block. So, you know, I might just turn this a little bit this way or this way to make sure, as opposed to keeping it all oriented that way and losing some of the you know, improv feel that we've been working on.
Perfectly imperfect.
Exactly, which is what we're going for. And so I hope this has inspired you. I hope this has encouraged all of you to learn more about these incredible quilters. I do want to share one quote that I found from one of the Geesbend quilt makers. Her name's Loretta Petway Bennett, as I was just studying their different stories. And I loved this that she said. She said, "My mother, her mother, and my aunts have sewn the foundation. All I have to do now is thread my own needle." And I just think, sorry, I'm getting emotional. I just think that's so beautiful. It's such a true thought to the quilting community. Sorry, that caught me by surprise.
That's good though.
To the quilting community at large, and this amazing heritage that we have to share with those around us. So thank you so much to the quilters of Geesbend who have inspired us. Woo! I hope you guys can have a wonderful week. I hope you will try this. Allow yourself to just sit and create imperfect beauty, because that's really what matters.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just to spend some time and be creative. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for all you do. And I do want to tease, I feel silly even saying this now, but I do want to tease, we have this great project, this bonus project coming up on Saturday, and it goes along with the theme of today, which is that finished is better than perfect. So if you want to join me again on Saturday, the 20th, which is National Quilting Day, we're going to make this cute little wall hanging together. And just remember to enjoy the journey, and the process is what it's all about. And so thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week.
Thank you.